All good, my friend.
And here comes the bop. Thank you, Salary.com, for sponsoring us. Hello and welcome to the HR Data Labs Brown Bag Lunch. I'm your host, David Zakreski, alongside my best friend, co-host, partner in crime from Salary.com, Dwight Brown. As I said, we can never get rid of this thing. There it goes.
Just a little extra artwork.
Thank you.
Oh, did you hit it again?
It's one of those things, it doesn't matter how many times you do it. You always do it.
Yeah.
So, Dwight, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm okay, but you know why I'm really good today?
Tell me.
Other than my son graduating from college tonight, which is a huge thing, we have with us Dr. Matt Zakreski. Dr. Matt, how are you?
I'm great. It's very interesting that I'm on this, talking to you guys today. It's been a great week for the therapy part of my job. It's been a tough week for the running a small business part of my job. So I'm like, it's great that I'm with some like-minded people who are living in this world as well, you know, and we didn't sign up to run the small business, and yet we do. So
Oh my gosh.
It's the gift we're given.
Well, do you want to go into that right now?
Word, that's for sure.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Give us a little bit about your background.
So I'm a clinical psychologist and professional speaker from New Jersey, and I specialize in working with neurodivergent people. And like a lot of people in my field, the research we do is ultimately me-search. I grew up as a gifted kid, and in high school I was diagnosed with ADHD, which explained a lot. You're so smart. Why are you so scattered? Oh my gosh, those are different things. And, you know, and centering that in my life was helpful in a lot of ways. And then many years later, when I went to grad school, it really became a calling, right? Because there's this neurodiversity movement that's exploding online. We're starting to center these conversations because we just understand so much more about the brain now than we did when I was growing up, you know, child of the 80s, right? So now I can point to brain scans and say to teachers, principals, coaches, HR reps, business leaders, listen, this is not a thing your person is choosing to do. This is a thing their brain is making them do or keeping them from doing. And when we anchor our conversations on neuroscience, it makes the target of our conversation a different thing rather than, how is this Dwight's fault? Because I'm pretty sure it's Dwight's fault.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And
Which it
there were
usually is, by the way.
Yeah. You give up that energy, Dwight.
But yeah, exactly.
And there were a lot of times, I'm sure, that in schools, kids that had those neurodivergent issues used to be called out as being troublemakers or class clowns, or they couldn't sit still, and so they were punished in ways that were quite cruel instead of having what now happens, accommodations made, or they go to occupational therapy or speech therapy or whatever, physical therapy, to enable them to adapt better to those settings.
Right.
But before we get into this much more, because it's a fascinating topic, and we're going to talk about that in the context of work, we ask people on the BBL, what's the last thing you did for the first time?
The last thing I did for the first time. This is an interesting thing. The last thing I did for the first time was, so I do all the cooking in our house, and and I had never made fried chicken before,
Oh.
We
Which
had
could get very dangerous, actually.
well, ADHD plus hot oil is probably not a great combo.
Yes.
Especially I have 2 young children, so it's like as if my attention isn't split enough. I'm also trying
Right.
to make sure they don't kill each
Exactly.
other.
Yeah.
But I made fried chicken for the first time, and it was great. And you know how I know it was great? So we live
Yes,
up
for
in
kids ate it?
Well, my wife ate it and my kids ate it, which is a win for me. But we live up in northern New Jersey, and you know New Jersey has more bears per capita than any other state.
I did not know that.
I didn't know
Number
that.
one in bears.
Now there's a claim to fame right
You're
there.
right. We got tomatoes, we got cranberries, and we got
devils.
bears.
We got bears.
But on Tuesday morning, I go outside and there is a bear howling through our garbage, eating the fried chicken. I was like, all right. I mean, who
I
needs a
made it.
5-star Google?
Yeah. Chef Ramsay,
Even the
look out.
bears like it.
Right. Right.
It's actually kind of funny because I had a bear in my new house in New York, which is in Warwick, not far from you.
Yeah, not far at all.
In your house?
And not in the house, but actually going to through my garbage. Big little bear.
Okay.
Anyways, we'll get to that. But Dr. Matt, thank you so much for being here. The topic we wanted to talk about today is your culture in an organization and how you deal with neurodiversity. And as I said, this is going to make a lot of people cry or a lot of people be upset because they don't know where they are on their mental journey.
Yeah.
I know one of my friends on LinkedIn, I'm not calling her out necessarily. She does a great job of this, Tracy Spottenberg, one of my best new friends on LinkedIn. She is very open about her journey in how she realized that she was on the spectrum and made that really a critical part of her career and her life. And I think a lot of people are now finding out later in life that they are on the spectrum. They're somewhere. And it explains, as you said before, it explains a lot about us. Can you tell us how that affects people at work and how they're really supposed to respond to it? What is a company supposed to do within their culture, within their working environment, to deal with people who now, all of a sudden, they now realize, I'm not like everybody else.
Right. So,
Or I am.
yeah, for all the people out there listening to us, whether you're on the live or you're going to listen to this later, the language we like to use about this is that a lot of people out there think they're weird horses. They see everybody else like doing horse things. So they're like, I can do most of those. It's not as easy as for me, but maybe I'm just a weird horse. But what it turns out is actually you're a zebra, right? And zebras and horses look alike. They need a lot of the same things, but zebras do better when they get zebra things, not just horse things, right? And since the world is built for and by neurotypical people, 80% of people are neurotypical. It makes sense that those of us who have different brains are a neuro minority, right? There are less of us,
Right.
and we are not asking to upend the structure. We're simply asking, like, can you also put out some zebra, right? We're just looking for that piece of equity, right? Everybody should get what they need. Now, when this applies to workplaces, I always ask for leaders and managers and HR professionals say, we want to search for strengths. We don't want to be a deficit detective. It is really easy to focus on the fact
Stop
that
looking for the bad things.
it's a human nature thing. Like, evolutionarily speaking, our brains are really good at pointing out the bad stuff. That's the danger. Right. That's the problem. Pay attention to that because that's going to keep you alive. But if you've got your best salesman and he's never on work on time, and you fire him because he's never on work on time, then you're losing all the revenue that guy gives you. Right? If you've got a really great person in operations who, let's say they're on the autism spectrum and they're blunt interpersonally,
Right.
I can train that person to be more pro-social in their communication rather than firing that person or punishing them for a thing they can't do. right? So,
Or worse, promoting them to be a people manager and then firing them because they suck at it because they don't want to have to deal with other people.
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's I often tell this story. So I used to work for EF Educational Tours up in Boston, and I was very good. I don't think I could sell everything, but I'm very passionate about travel, so I could sell travel really well. And my numbers were so good, they put me on the repeat sales team. So like moving quickly, getting a lot of repeat customers, go, goals. And guys, I sucked at it. It wasn't my sales style.
Right.
I built relationships. I got to know people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so after almost getting fired, I asked to be put on the advanced sales team, working with
Right.
people who are traveling 2 years in advance.
Right.
And then my numbers
To
went
develop
right
those
back
relationships.
Up, yeah, going back up to the top of the sales charts. And all of a sudden they're like, wait, where'd this come? Like, where'd you go and why are you back? I'm like,
Right. How'd you turn it around?
Right.
Yeah.
Because just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're good at all aspects of it or all iterations of that, right?
Right.
And I think that so much of what we do in the HR business space is we work hard when we need to work smart, right? If you've got an employee who can do something really well, let's build an infrastructure around that skill rather than saying, well, that skill's great, but we need it to look like this.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Right? Skill is rare. Talent is rare. Let's amplify and celebrate the talent rather than arbitrarily putting glass ceilings on that because we've always thought it needed to look or act this other way, right? And that's where we end up seeing neurodivergent people really shine because you've created something where they can be the best versions of themselves without worrying about the things that really don't matter as much.
You know, I think one of the questions that comes to mind is, in cases like that, a person has to identify as neurodivergent. And I would imagine that that's a very tough thing. And there's a lot of people out there that don't identify. And so it's like they sit in this bucket still. Or wouldn't want to, wouldn't feel safe doing it. And
Well, they'd feel lesser, right? They'd feel like,
right.
you know, you get a diagnosis of ADHD or whatever, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you know, and here it is, it's June, it's Pride Month, right? And the process for coming out as neurodivergent is actually very similar socially to coming out as LGBTQ, right? And this is particularly relevant for what I do because you know that neurodivergent people are 8 times more likely to be LGBTQ than neurotypical people.
Wow.
Somewhere
Really?
between 38 and 70% of neurodivergent folks are LGBTQ. So, like, in my job, I am advocating for many aspects of a person.
Right. Exactly.
You know, who you are, who you love, how your brain works. I mean, like, we're fighting.
Yeah.
It often feels like I'm skiing uphill, but that's what I'm on this planet to do.
Right.
And we cannot sit here and say, like, it's safe for everybody to do that. But that's where I think businesses can actually be a much safer landing space because it's this sort of very pragmatic nature of capitalism. It's like, listen, you're a resource. I need to optimize your resource. The more I know about this resource, the more I can optimize it, right? If you can create a culture where those things are out and talked about and normalized, then what you're doing is you're lowering the bar for more people to be the most authentic versions of them, right? And when I talk to companies, I'm like, listen, 20 years ago, you didn't have gluten-free options. You probably had peanuts and everything. You didn't have soy milk, almond milk, you know, you didn't have Impossible Burgers in the cafeteria. But now in 2025, you do because you've adapted to changing dietary needs. What I'm asking you to do is model those same things for neurodivergent needs, right? And then, because it's the thing, we're not asking people to reinvent the wheel. We're asking somebody to do a different version of a thing they're already doing.
Yeah.
To me, it comes back to the label.
Yeah.
You mentioned it before. The normies built the structures right? And so I think I get that from a movie. Sorry. But the normies built the model for what people should do and how people should behave. And by the way, that model was based on, making sure that we could have an army that understood how pay ramped up as they went up by level. It's stupid. But even so, and job descriptions do a horrible job of this. What if a person couldn't do everything in the duties and responsibilities? Well, what performance evaluation says is that they're not exceeding performance. They're not even average performance. But you have somebody like you mentioned before, Dr. Matt, where they're knocking it out of the park because their results are phenomenal on 99% of the stuff, but they're not doing the 1% because they just can't. They're not wired to. To me, the label sets them apart, even though you're giving them what I call accommodations, because my kids get accommodations in school because of their IEPs. How do we break through those labels? Because they do carry, what's the word, cultural weight for how you're working with other people.
And I love that you're asking this question, because that gets to the heart of what I do in this space. I mean, when I have these conversations in schools are more adapted to have these conversations, right? I mean, schools are de facto, increasingly these days, the de facto community mental health centers, right? That's where most kids go to get their mental health support, right? Because the therapy model in this country is largely broken, and I participate in that model, and I'm well aware of how bad it is.
Yeah.
So those labels carry weight within the educational space, and then all of a sudden you end high school, and now it's a scarlet letter again, right? It's like, wait, hold on a second. Like, I was accommodated for this, and now I have to go back into the proverbial closet, right? But one of the things I like to say I got to talk about this at the Transform HR conference earlier this year in Vegas. It's so funny. I was talking in the big room, and there was maybe 30 people sitting there when I started. By the time I was done, there was 85, 90 people, because people kept telling me. I walked by and I heard myself. I didn't know you were talking about me, but then you were talking about me. Because, hey guys, holy shit. A lot of remarkable people have remarkable brains, right? We struggle with things like dyslexia. We struggle with things like OCD. We struggle with things like ADHD. You solve problems that other people can't solve because you have a gifted brain. And when you realize that 1 in 5 people are neurodivergent, this is not some tiny, small, incidental problem. This is an everybody thing. Right?
Unless they really suck at statistics, and then they say, I don't understand what you mean about 1 in 5 people.
Math? Yeah, this math isn't mathing, guys. I don't know.
Look to the person to the right, to the left. Well, I still can't get it.
Yeah.
Go, you have 5 people. You have 4 people. 2 on either side.
Right.
1 of the 5 of you.
Right.
Oh. Right. Really? Is it me?
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite jokes is there are 2 kinds of people in the world. The first is the kind of people who can't extrapolate from incomplete data sets, and then you just stop talking. And it's like, there's like 9 people on this live that are going to get that joke, but they're all going to laugh really hard.
Oh my God, I love that.
and you know what? Like, I love that we got to tell that joke. But I'll tell you this. We spend so much time and energy masking, which is the word for it in the neurodivergent community, or passing, which is the word for it in the LGBTQ community, right?
Yeah.
When all the energy we're spending on being somebody we're not, being our inauthentic selves,
absolutely,
that is energy we're not spending on showing up for our colleagues, doing good work, being good partners, parents, friends, whatever that might be, right? So...
And the stress associated with that?
Oh my gosh.
Kills us.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
Kills us.
I mean, the cortisol rates in the neurodivergent population are off the charts, right?
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's this weird paradoxical thing where it's like we need to create that critical mass of safety, because the more people who come out, the safer it becomes for other people to come out. It becomes a virtuous cycle, not a vicious one, right? That's why I put my own self out there. I'm like, listen, I'm a proud neurodivergent person. I'm gifted in ADHD. I might be a little dyspraxic too. I've tried to figure that out. But like, I have a big platform. I get to be on shows like this. And if I help one person out there be like, yo, maybe that's me too, then I'm doing my job, because we're creating that critical mass.
Right. And it so much depends on the workplace environment too, the people around. Because I've been in workplace environments where they're very supportive of many different aspects of things. And then you get somebody who creates a culture where it is not okay. There's no psychological safety for anything.
Right.
And so
by the way,
being
it can
able
change
to
on a dime,
navigate,
Dwight.
yeah, exactly. You go from one environment to the next within a 5-second period, and it's trying to navigate that just adds to the overall cortisol level, like you said.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, Dr. Matt, on that point, I was going to ask, is Dwight's question even worse when we take into consideration work from home versus work at the office?
Ooh.
This is going to be such a psychologist answer, and I apologize. It's a yes and no thing, right? Work from home is one of the best accommodations we can give neurodivergent people, right? Because it's often not about the work, it's about the trappings of work. It's about getting there on time, navigating public transportation or the highway. It's about the goddamn water cooler. It's about the coffee machine. It's about the lights. It's about that awful background noise, because Sharon and HR just will not stop talking about her niece's quinceañera. And like, we're very happy for you, but I'm trying to do some coding, right? So I tell every company I talk to, listen, if you make work from home an opt-in, right? Somebody just is like, hey, I gotta work from home today. What you're doing is you are helping people do the best versions of their job. Right. Mm-hmm. Because that what the research shows us is that it isn't the work that's the problem, it's the stuff around the work. So working from home, I can control that environment more. And what you're doing is you're showing trust in your employee. When you show trust in your employee, they repay that trust. And yes, not every time, we're all realistic grown-ups here, but way more than it doesn't, right? And you're going to get the best version of that employee if you allow them to focus on the actual job, not the bullshit around the job, right? And you know, one of the guys I work with, he works for a major international company, and we fought really hard to get him work from home, and we finally were successful. And every so often he sends me, you know, the data from his team, and he's so far at the top of the charts, they had to make a different sheet for him, right? It's like Katie Ledecky in the Olympics, right? Like, he's on a different screen, and everybody else is like, we're back here, right? And like, and that's all you had to do was let this guy work from his living room. That's all you had to do, right? Just like if in school you let the ADHD kid sit in a swivel chair, or you let the kid who's on the spectrum, you know, have their sensory stuff. Like, we are talking about people's humanity here, guys. It really, like, one of the things I'm fond of saying as a psychologist is like, things are simple. That doesn't mean they're easy, but they're simple. We're talking about simple fixes here.
My son can't stop. My youngest son can't stop doing what I call hand puppets. It's his way of being able to express himself as well as keep himself, because he's ADHD. He had been ODD as well, which is oppositional defiance disorder. He still is, but the person who met him for 25 minutes says he isn't. No. But the reason why I bring him up is because he does a lot of things that I think would disturb other people. Like, he does a lot of hand puppets. He's having dinosaurs fight between himself. Yeah. And he does it at school. And one day I asked him, I said, Teddy, do you think that other people, while you're doing that, do you think they're judging you, or do you think they ask you, or does anybody ask you what you're doing? Or do people stay away from you for this? He said, you know what, Dad? I don't care. It's a way for me to keep myself interested and to keep myself aware. And I go away, I do that for a little bit, and I'm back in.
Yeah.
That's a self-aware kid.
It's a very
but
Yeah.
but and the reason why I brought it up is because what kind of accommodation does someone like that get in an office where he's sitting there, he's twiddling his thumbs, literally, in an office environment. Other people are there, they're working, they look up, they see him doing that, and they go, "You're literally doing what everybody says don't do about twiddling thumbs.
Yeah.
What are you doing?" And you
Right.
mentioned about the schools making accommodations for stress and being able to have their gadgets and their fidgets and things like that. Do we need to address in the workplace that the fidgets and the stress relief need to be something that need to be accommodated, or that just should be, or let that person just be?
I think we talk about it in a broad sense because everybody's getting the things they need to get through the day. And when people push back on that, I'm always like, all right, let's jump in a time machine. Let's go back 20, 30 years ago. How many of y'all used to take cigarette breaks? And everyone sort of looks around and they're like, they raise their hands. I'm like, isn't that a self-stimulation? Isn't that a coping thing to
Yes.
get through the day? You take that
Coping
nicotine
mechanism.
burst, right?
Absolutely.
And like, I don't know if either of you ever worked in the restaurant industry. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I was a bartender for many years. I used to take cigarette breaks not because I smoked, but because I got to go outside. I'm like, I'm
Right.
sitting on the bench with all the smokers. This is nice. And it's like it's really no different than a cup of coffee or a cigarette. Those things are self-stimulating things, right? What I ask my clients to do is like, we're going to find the least disruptive version of that, right? And honestly, what we're seeing is a return to the office, a return to giving people doors. Because honestly, if I'm somebody who needs to pace the room, if I need to tap on things, if I need to mumble or hum to myself, if I need to, God forbid, pick my nose, right? If there's a door to my office, then that doesn't bother as many people. And it becomes...
Nobody does that, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Nobody picks their
It's
nose.
completely theoretical example, right? I used to tell my manager, I was like, listen, I'm the sort of person, I need to take micro breaks for my ADHD. I'm always going to have ESPN up on my computer. Sometimes you're going to see me reading an article on ESPN, not because I'm blowing off work, but because if I scratch that extra 10% itch, I'm that much more focused on what I have to do.
Right.
And this is where I think meritocracy can be a lovely thing, is like my sales numbers were so good, they couldn't say my strategy didn't work, right?
Right.
But really, all of this boils down to this idea, whether we're talking about your kiddo, Dave, or an employee, or somebody at salary.com, like, at the end of the day, when it comes to interfacing with people, we want to be curious, not furious, right? I'm going to assume that Dwight's sitting in that chair because it helps him. I'm not going to get mad at Dwight for not sitting in the kind of chair I think he should, giant air quotes, be sitting in. Right? I'm gonna think a kid who's got a clicky pen like this and using it to self-stim, they're doing this to stay in the classroom, not to hurt other people from paying attention. If I'm curious about what purpose this serves, I'm aligning myself with the kid or the person. I'm not making that person my problem. And that's the sort of sea change we need to make if we're going to optimize these people and give them the lives they deserve, right? We're not asking them to have we're not asking for any more than anybody else gets, right? But it's a fundamental question of equity, and we are all capable of giving people what they deserve.
Now,
So often it's about the ideal state is being in a place where people can talk about it and have the conversations and feel safe having the conversations,
Right.
both asking and answering. And I think of that as kind of a life journey in many ways. You go from one environment to the next, but ultimately, if you can sit down, have those conversations with people, understand it, then when I walk by your desk and I see you on ESPN, I'm like, oh yeah, he's taking a micro break there.
Yeah.
He needs that.
but even if you think about the ESPN, or you think about the walk around the office, or you think about the twirling the pen or the fiddling of the thumbs, there used to be this concept in the context of the working day, that there were times where you could take time for yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You got into work, maybe you had a 10-15 coffee break.
Yeah.
You got lunchtime off.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, off. Not at your desk.
Right.
Off.
Right.
You got back. You had a 2:30, 3 o'clock break for Matt's smoke, or his secondhand
cigarettes
inhale.
Secondhand smoke, yeah.
But then 5 o'clock rolled around and you left.
Yeah.
That does not exist anymore.
Nope.
Not exist. There are some places like California that require breaks, and it also requires clocking out and clocking in, and if not, there are huge fines for that.
Yeah.
But the concept has changed, and I'm wondering how and why, because it's not just about the cigarette industry anymore. It's about people's eyes, their mentality. You cannot look at these damn either 60 or 100 hertz screens for your entire day and not have affecting in your eyesight at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
And Dr. Matt, to your point, know your brain.
Right.
So
Right.
how is it that we got away from that?
I don't want to speak out of turn, right?
It's your platform. This is your turn.
So I blame No Child Left Behind.
Oh, interesting.
Mm.
So, in the early aughts, right, the George W. Bush administration, they were like, schools aren't doing as well as they could, so we are going to raise the stakes and focus on these metrics we can control, and thus education will be better. And what we have found is that that's actually the opposite effect has occurred, right? Teachers are miserable, kids are miserable, the test scores are going up, and most other metrics are going down. Because what we've done is that in trying to maximize the time you spend at school, we have minimized or even eliminated the things that help the people be successful there. And, so like, I quote this statistic a lot. Over the last 20 years in America, recess time in school has decreased by 71%.
Wow.
We are not letting kids move their bodies anymore. And why do we think we have
recess.
skyrocketing rates of ADHD? Because kids need to move their freaking bodies, right? And
Right.
really, all three of us as adults, we are sitting in chairs that allow us to move our bodies. Right? We get to control how we're sitting, how we're moving. We're getting a little shimmy shake. We've got the bop going on, right? And yet we're doing we're squeezing that out. We got rid of shop. We got rid of home ec. We got rid of we're getting rid of the arts because there's been this race to nowhere, right? Like, that's not going to get you into Yale. Well, who cares? If
Exactly.
I'm miserable
Right.
in school, then I'm not going to want to go to Yale, even if I get in. And
God,
that-
Dr. Matt, let's just get rid of the Department of Education. There you go.
I'm not trying to get anybody
Ruh-roh.
canceled, so I will. Earlier this year, I lost a keynote opportunity because they took a look at my social media. They were like, could you take down all of your posts that are pro-LGBTQ? I was like, absolutely freaking not. They were like,
No, go away.
they were like, well, I was like, listen, if my politics aren't what you need, then I will happily refer one of my colleagues to you. But it's
Right.
the sort of thing, like, one of my biggest jobs is to be an advocate. And
Yeah.
the people who need my advocacy are marginalized humans.
Yeah.
And frankly, if you're not okay with me stepping up and standing up for marginalized people, then I'm not the professional for you. I'm not the consultant. I'm not the coach. I'm not the therapist. I'm not the speaker. And I can live with that, right? But what I find is that organizations that are originally a little bit concerned about that the more they get into this space, the more like, oh my God, it's all interconnected. And I'm like, there it is.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yeah, like that's what I've been trying to tell you.
Yeah. It's like one of those Russian nesting dolls, right? It's
Yes.
not just the thing, it's the thing inside the thing inside
Right.
the thing inside
Right
the
inside the thing, yeah.
thing. Right?
Yeah.
Well,
Like
Dr.
Scooby-Doo.
Matt,
Let's see who you really are.
you meddling kids. Dr. Matt, we're going to have you back on again because we
Please.
could spend, I don't know, days talking about this.
Yeah.
And we really do appreciate you. We appreciate everything you stand for as well. And as I said, I was going to promise everybody I was going to cry at some point today. I'm very proud of my gay neurodivergent son who is graduating today from high school.
Nice.
And I love him very much. Nathan, you're going to do wonderful in the world. And I hope every dream that you have comes true. But Dr. Matt, thank you so much for being here.
It was truly
Yes,
my pleasure.
Thank you
This was
for being with us.
Yeah.
And Dr. Brown, thank you very much for being here.
Doc Brown. 1.21 gigawatts.
I'm not sure what I'm a doctor of, but
Awesomeness. PhD in awesomeness.
doctor of awesome. Yes.
Dr. Love. And thank you all for listening. If you're still listening to this, you're hysterical too. Take care and stay safe.
Bye, everyone.